Now, we want to get to the part that a lot of people have been waiting for, from the beginning of the show. Get to that part. Want to talk about an explosive BBC investigative piece that exposed Nigerian pastor TB Joshua. My oh my. And the expose, was about, for those maybe who did not watch that documentary, rather investigative piece, both on YouTube, and there was a different version on BBC podcasts, in any podcast platform that actually went into more detail. It had 9 episodes. So that one was much deeper than the 3 episodes that were on YouTube. So just basically, this was, he's a very popular, evangelist from Nigeria with international fame. And he traveled the world a lot, but there were issues that were brought up about him in this investigative piece. Now, I just want to make sure everybody in this panel had a chance to...
I watched it,
to watch. Mike, maybe let's start with you.
I didn't watch it.
I only watched one episode.
You only watched one episode. First of all, before you go to Mike, why did you only watch one episode? What was it? What were your feelings about that first episode, and what made you not to move to the second episode?
Okay, so several things. Number one, it's January, we're closing end of year, so I come home, I'm tired.
Wait, January closing end of year or December?
You understand?
We're in January.
You're closing 23.
We're closing 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
this is finance account one.
It happens in January.
Sure.
So it's been a busy month. Actually, I'm working tomorrow. If I don't finish that, I need to work Sunday because Monday I have a presentation to do that I need to finish. So it's been a busy month to begin with.
Excuses.
For the entire pandemic, I have spent a ton of time listening to, from 2020 to now, I've listened to so much content around cult, what TB Joshua was doing. I don't want to call it content, but different
content.
Stories,
experiences, let me call them experiences from different. So there's the biggest one. This was actually run by Christian Today. Christian Today is the premier Christian news platform for Christian news, right, in the US. So they had one about this mega church in Seattle, run by Mark Drischel, if you guys know about that. So I spent a ton of time listening to that. There's another one in California. There's another one in the South, which is listen, this is just so I think by the time I'm moving and then Shakahola last year, it was more it kind of rings I've had this before, I'd had this before, right? And it's funny, every time I start listening, whatever different location it is, there's a ton of similarities.
Okay.
And I think it being in Africa hits home a bit more for me. And I'm I know people are actually going through that.
Okay. And now
in Kenya.
Yeah.
So
now,
I'm I not distance more, but more I get it, but I'm already too tired from work to keep picking up this emotional.
So that's what stopped you from
that's
going
what
to
stopped me.
2.
It was just I actually know people today who attend churches like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you also said, and this we're going to get back to later, but you also said that most people are a step away.
One step away.
From being a cult member.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that, what you mean.
Yeah. But let me say what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm. No, we're going to talk about that. So I don't want you to spill everything.
Okay.
But, I want to go to Mike. But remember, we're going to talk about, you said, most people. An overwhelming majority of the people are one step away
from being in a cult.
Yeah. Okay, you're going to talk to us about that. Mike, what was your experience? You watched all
I've watched the 3 episodes.
Yeah.
But I know religion is a very sensitive subject, but also it reinforced for me how I think we as Africans have been hoodwinked when it comes to Christianity. And the form of Christianity in this case with what TB Joshua did. And if you watch it, I mean, it's very disturbing. And how religion has been used, to enrich some people. How religion, in this particular case, when I say religion, let me talk about, am I gonna call them Pentecostal or the CFDs? Because Pentecostal.
Okay.
So Pentecostal, the Pentecostal form of whatever branch of this particular career.
Is that a branch of like Protestant Christianity or?
It's Protestant. It's a branch. Like
It's a branch
it's only wale wa Pentecostal or Holy Ghost fire, speaking in tongues.
Okay.
Those guys. And these are the same guys who I think majority of the message is along the lines of prosperity.
Yeah.
Prosperity gospel. Tithing, give, if you're in order to speak to the prophet, there's also, assignment or, prophet, foretelling, deacon, prophetess, whatever. And if you want to speak to the prophet, pay 1,000 shillings or $1,000 or whatever, bless the, it has that one. And I think, and I can sometimes see it like even within my own family, when I look at family, how like there's certain, it's like you become blinded, maybe like what Ruth was talking about, maybe one step away, but there's certain things you don't see, like you're supposed to be able to see, first feed your family, but don't give all the money that you have and then you're left with nothing. If you look at Profit War, how all of a sudden there's a standstill in the season of Nairobi because
When
the guy
went to a clothing store.
yeah, you're like, yo, my man, okay. But again, that's just me, and I fear.
Okay. All right, good. So we're going to come to Mika real quick and then to Omosh regarding this. But before we go there, a couple of comments have already come in. Like Ruth, please read the few comments that are coming in so far.
Okay. So let me tell you mine. After 2 days, I finally finished the documentary. Pablo, I personally did not watch it. I just heard about it and I was like not surprised. Same script, different cast, 100%. I identify with that. Slay agrees with Pablo. This is so true. It was a lot. Kaiser says, be careful, they may come for you. Pablo,
I think that was too Uno.
Question for Ali. What do you to watch the expose?
I'll say that after you finish reading the comments.
Yeah, and then Slay, plant a seed.
310 Kanyari 310.
Yeah.
Yes.
Slay, you told not to question anything and how you are problematic if you do not believe or follow the teachings of.
Okay.
Person.
So I think, like a very good question Pablo is asking, and I think I can have 100 reasons why, I had to watch this documentary from when the trailer was released. And BBC is very good at even building this trailer and capturing. It's very difficult to capture my attention because I'm a big, content, viewer or listener. So BBC has some of the most powerful teasers. So I was like, okay, this one I must watch. But part of the reason why I watched it is, just a basic reason is that anything that goes viral, because of the space that we're in, I will watch it. Not necessarily for knowledge value or enhancement, but also to understand what most people are listening to, because this thing went viral. So you have to understand, for you to be able to talk to people about certain things, you first of all have to know, what are most people out there listening to? What's a community? And that's the reason why, I will watch, bad content that I would typically not just search for and watch, but just because that's what a lot of people are watching and it's having influence on what the people are seeing. So this was just one of those. The other thing is that BBC does very interesting documentaries. I actually watch all their documentaries that they do, you know, like on Africa. You know, the one issue I have with BBC is that I mean the documentaries, I'm not gonna say they're non-factual. Some of them, you know, like the one they did on that private investigator in Kenya. I can't remember her name. Yeah, that one was a disaster by BBC standards.
Jane somebody or something.
That one was a disaster. But most of the ones they did, you know, like on children being sold, being bought and sold, you know, like newborns being bought and sold in Kenya, you know, like that's something that's been happening and actually had been reported before on Kenyan media. So these are documentaries I watch, and I'm also, you know, like a self how do I put it, ndo watu wasiseme tuonyeshe credentials zako, you know, like I'm also a self-taught historian. I love history. I love religious history, you know, and when I talk about religious history, I just don't mean the religion that I practice, which is Islam. You know, I'm talking about Christianity. I'm talking about Judaism, you know, like the major faiths of the world. Yes. Yeah, the major faiths of the world. You know, like I like, you know, I like understanding, you know, like where things started from and how things got to where they are, because it gives you a very fresh perspective. Yeah. And I think, you know, like all places of worship should be teaching history classes. You know, like, I mean, I know this is very controversial, but I think they should be teaching history classes to make people understand certain things. So on this cult issue, you know, TB Joshua, I'd heard the name before. I did not know how big he was. You know, like, of course, it's a name that I'd come across before. I just didn't know how big he was. So I wanted to listen to know, you know, like what people are listening and also to deconstruct BBC. But this was one of those documentaries that I was not able to deconstruct them because the kind of overwhelming evidence that they presented was just a bit too much.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you watched any other documentary that details things like this?
Oh, yes. The one on the Jonestown one.
Okay.
The cult, the one where Americans were taken to some
Jonestown
island, and even I think a congressman or a senator, was killed. And then there's a couple. There's this guy who's also in prison. I'm forgetting his name. He's called something Mason. He was jailed for life. He was also in he was getting women into some religious cult and then killing them. But and then of course when we go to the Islamic side, because these are issues that I'm gonna talk about, you know, like how they manifest, you know, like on the Islamic side and how they are dealt with. And I'm also, as a Muslim, gonna make a strong defense for Christianity, because I'm getting to a point where I'm starting to feel that Christians are criticizing Christianity a bit too much. And I will give the reasons why, you know, like I've gotten to a point where I feel like even as a Muslim, I do have to come in defense of Christianity in a bit. But you have to stay tuned. We're gonna go to Mika. Mika.
Yeah.
Yes, TB Joshua. Ama wewe ulikuwa tu unakula sherehe. Unauliza TB Joshua nina. Who is TB Joshua?
Hata nikwambia mimi najua TB Joshua.
Aya, talk to us. On the ground opinion.
You know, this Mika is talking like the guy was with him, Jada.
No.
Maybe he's even met him. Who knows?
No, I've not met him. But I saw a lot of. He was actually, you know, those days there was when Facebook was the only social media, and when you got a video on Facebook, it could last. Hakukuwa na reels ati vitu fupi. It was if a video is uploaded, it's uploaded. So there was a lot of TB Joshua media on it on Facebook at that particular time. There was a lot of people who were sharing most of his stuff and most of his testimonials on how. And actually, the thing that actually made me actually know more about him was when this footballer Adebayo. You remember Adebayo?
Adebayo, Arsenal.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, his mom took nearly all his money and gave it to this guy.
Oof, okay, interesting.
Yeah. So that is how I knew about it. But the guy was complaining about how his mom was harassing him. When there was a time when the guy was complaining how his family actually made it broke. And how his family was toxic, and he said his mom, and one of the things was his mom actually telling him like, take your week salary to this guy to pray. Like, it was just a stupid thing. And then there was another player for Manchester United, a kid, Angel Gomez, who his mom is Nigeria, who took him to the preacher to pray for him so that he stops getting injured. So that's how I came to know about him. And I was looking at his stuff, and I used to say like, like, anyway, I'm not one who's big on prosperity gospel. I usually look at it as a sham, as a scam. I don't understand, because I've had relatives who have seen, like, basically, unang'ang'ano kule skuma and unachanga do, you have 900, unaniomba mimi nimesota, unaniomba so ufikishe 1000 ndo itoshe ya bahasha upeleke kwa anatokaje Margaret wa elimu akuombe. Like, yo, prayer would cure laziness. Work. Do something to, the things where you look at something and you're like, your decisions are so fucked up. Kule yo 900 yako hata kupelekea mtu uko sijui akuombe atido. Like, you have to work to make money. Simple as that. You're not going to make money from sitting at home. So prosperity gospel for me, I was raised a Catholic. I was born a Catholic. I've seen, and then over the years I've had friends who went to prosperity churches. I have seen pastors coming from nothing. I've seen who were deliverers. J.B. Masinde, he was my neighbor. I went to school with his kids. I've seen him come from just a deacon to a billionaire right now, where he is. And you cannot tell me that this guy who we used to see staggering from his car akija kwa nyumba, all of a sudden God has caught him to a point whereby he's become a billionaire without being unscrupulous or doing something silly. So for me, prosperity gospel is something I look at it and I actually laugh at it. So when this expose came out, I was not surprised, because I was not surprised about anything. I watched 2 episodes. It's just that it was shocking that it was allowed to go this far. And if you tie it back to Kenya and all these other places, it's tied in between. There's politicians who are tied into it, and it now becomes more of the church is being used to do things like organ
donation,
not even organ donation, smuggling of organs, kidnapping of kids, and all this, everything that they are being accused of. It's hard for you to actually say they're not doing it, because people just join churches and disappear. People do this, like, yeah. So for me, I look at it and say that when I've always called for churches to be taxed, all of them, Catholic, nini zote zikuwe taxed, they make a lot of money. They need to be taxed. I do not believe in how you tell people that you have to suffer in earth and then you'll benefit in heaven while you're living you're not suffering. You're living the soft life.
Well,
I've never understood that religion. Me, Kwango J makes sense. Why are you preaching suffering to me while you're living well? I remember there's a time I asked you a question. Have you ever heard a Kenyan gospel song that doesn't glorify suffering?
wow, that was a very interesting question that it got me thinking, and I could not come up even right now. They're there, but personally, maybe I've listened to only
they're
the
there
viral
for the
ones.
new one, the new ones, the new kids, the young kids are the ones actually, and they've gotten it after listening to Western
but Zakina Willie Paul, Sitolia.
Yeah, but then most of Kenyan musicians, like all these Rose Mahando, even this woman Nudini, when you go to Nikulia, it's usually I'm suffering, then God will come and salvation. It's like I have to go through. Why can't God bless you right now?
Okay.
Why can't God bless you right now? Why can't God bless you right now? For me, honestly, I believe this is one of the biggest organized crimes in this world, prosperity gospel.
Wow.
And,
Okay.
and to add on to that, I think. Oh, sorry. I think.
No,
Yeah.
go on.
Yeah, go ahead, and then Ruth is gonna read the comments, and Ruth also has something to add before we get to Omosh.
Because when you think about it,
Yeah.
and somebody draws the comparison, like to Jesus. It's not like he was being carried around by guys, being hoisted on not even on a chariot, like using people to carry him. He's not a guy you'd find chilling over there with the Pharisees and the whatevers, sipping on wine or whatever. No, ni msee alikuwa tu hanging out with supposedly the poor folk, the downtrodden,
Anategemea
the prostitutes,
donations.
whatever.
Anategemea kukula kwa nyumba za watu.
Yeah. But these guys, their lifestyle is totally different. But carry on.
Okay.
Okay, Ruth, like I know you have some comments, and there's also some comments to read from what people are saying. So choose whichever you want to start with.
I will start by commenting and then I'll read the comments.
Okay.
I think for me, it's growing up in a Pentecostal church. I can see how these things tend to happen, right? I just happen to have been, I don't want to say lucky, blessed is the word I say, that I had preachers who would teach the word in church, right? So it wasn't, because the people just preach and they preach fluff. They don't preach the word, right? To them, it's just like, and that's why you end up hearing like, Mungu atakubariki, because that is the fluff. It's very loosely based on the word, right? But then if you happen to have had preachers or pastors who actually grounded their preaching on the word, then it's easy to be like, well, that is not what the Bible says, right? So there's that. Now, how do people end up here? Why do the all suffering thing becomes a thing? You guys have to remember, a ton of these people do actually come from poverty or just lack, right? And so in creating hope, they have to believe that something good will come out of it, right? Now, unfortunately, people are not taught that good that it will come out, it will be your hard work, right? Like you have to go out there and look for it. There's the hope that work hard, it will come through for you, but there's the idea of like, just believe God. No, this is the crazy people. Just believe God, it will come through for you, right? There's no solution to like, because this is faith without works. This is again
Is dead.
It's dead, and I'm basing these words from the Bible. Faith without works is dead. Nothing will come out of that, right? But if you have faith and you work towards that, then you will prosper in the right way. Like you get food for your children. You get now, because these preachers need to have money, funds. They become very predatory around like getting money, because it's funny, some of the ideas people have, I'm like, why do you even think about building a church? You already have a place you can worship. We really don't have to go about building churches, like several churches around the same place, right? So they go with these big dreams, build a church, buy a vehicle, sijui nini, and before you know it, they're mortgaged so much that they have to keep, and then also lazima mtengeneze pasa nyumba, like in this kazi yake ni kanisani, so we have to do this for these people, right? Because they don't get a salary outside of church, which is fine. If this is what you plan to do, you should get a salary out of it, right? But then it becomes that your members finance everything that you do. So they become predatory around how they're going to ask for money, right? That's why you hear this like, God will bless you if you give, actually give this amount of money, this exact amount of money, God will bless you out of it, right? And I will say, if it were not for my background, I probably would have fallen into that as well, right? And so I had to be like, okay, well, I can't give you everything, so nitakula nini, or I there has to be somewhere where I if I'm gonna go by what the word says, I can give first fruits, I can give a tithe, and that ends there. Like the idea of like lazima I have to give more out of that. If I don't have it, I don't have it. And actually, if I don't have that, I don't have that. I'm not going to go borrow money and do things like that. So I need to kind of give an explanation that there are predatory preachers out there, and I think that they are the loudest, and that's what we get to see. there are Pentecostal churches that actually base their word on what the Bible says.
Yes.
And if you've gone through that, you're able to have the guardrails we're talking about, which I'll come back to.
Yes, and we're
later.
gonna come back to that. So but
later.
we still have some comments before we come to DJ Omoshfire to get the politically correct version of this conversation.
Okay. One more thing before I go to the comments.
Yeah.
Some of this preachers like TB Joshua, Mark Drischel, and a ton of like.
Is TD Jakes included in that list?
No, I'm not including him.
Okay.
I'm not including him.
What about Creflodola?
I'm not including him.
Okay.
So
Tuliza
I'm
Mika.
not
Kuwa
including
mpole.
those people.
Benny
For a
Hill,
reason.
Reinhard Bonke.
Maurice Cerulo.
Some of these people have personality disorders.
Okay.
And it's so visible in how they go about doing things. Because you will not tell me, you of right mind, with your heart that God has given you, supposed to take care of the sheep that God has given you, then you become that to them. You know? There is a study to that needs to be looked into. Like, there are personality disorders. Number one, I would just say these people have NPD, and this is me not being a therapist, but I can just say, like, these are narcissistic disorders these people have, and they tend to use that, the ability to manipulate people, charm people, manipulate them to do what you want to do, right? And they become really good cult leaders in that, because they know what to say, they know how to prey on you, they know how to manipulate you, and using carrot and stick to kind of get you hooked up into this thing.
They've mastered that science.
They've mastered that science.
Okay.
Okay, so I just want to say that.
Okay, thank you.
Can I talk about the cult thing or later?
We will get to that.
Okay,
and
let
of
me
course,
read
you know,
comments.
for those maybe who are just joining us,
Yeah.
Ruth says that a majority of the people that you might be included in that majority.
Everyone.
Yeah, almost everyone.
Almost everyone.
Is
One
a step
step
away.
away.
I was even gonna say a step or two, you know, in my almost mind of political correctness, but this was Ruth's word, so I don't want to misquote her. Say everyone, or
Almost everyone.
almost everyone,
Yeah.
is a step away
Yeah.
from joining a cult.
Yeah.
So you'll tell us
And
about
and
that.
they don't have to be religious, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll come back to
We'll
that.
come back to that.
Okay,
So read the comments.